Close your eyes. Imagine an unstoppable force, a perfect machine built not of steel, but of human will and impossible precision. For a decade, it dominated, redefined, and consumed the very essence of American football. But what if its golden gleam hid a truth so unsettling, so profound in its efficiency, that it left behind not just records, but a strange, gnawing emptiness? The calculated genesis. Picture a broken franchise, adrift in the late 70s, a team synonymous with mediocrity, clinging to the edge of San Francisco Bay. Then, a whisper of a new order arrived, Bill Walsh. He wasn't just a coach, he was an architect, a systems engineer disguised in a headset, arriving with blueprints for an offensive revolution the likes of which the sport had never conceived. His vision, honed over years in obscurity, was to dismantle the brute force paradigm of football, replacing it with a ballet of timing, angles, and relentless cerebral warfare. The era of 3 yards and a cloud of dust was dead. Walsh brought the scalpel. He didn't invent the West Coast offense as we know it today. In fact, he never even coined the term himself, preferring to call his intricate system simply the passing game, a more accurate descriptor of its fundamental philosophy that predated its popular moniker. It was a subtle, insidious reimagining of how points were scored, a methodical unpeeling of defensive layers with short, precise throws rather than heroic bombs. He began building his empire from the ground up, not with a sledgehammer, but with a jeweler's loupe, scrutinizing every potential piece for its fit within his grand design. This wasn't about raw talent alone. It was about the right talent, the kind that understood and executed the precise, intricate movements of a complex organism. He saw football not as a chaotic battle, but as a series of solvable equations, each play a variable to be meticulously calculated. The initial skepticism was palpable. How could short passes and quick reads truly dominate the behemoths of the NFL? Walsh, however, understood the hidden power of accumulating small advantages, of wearing down a defense mentally before physically. He sought players who possessed not just athletic prowess, but an insatiable intellectual curiosity for the game, a willingness to shed preconceived notions of how football should be played. His first drafts were a masterclass in this philosophy, identifying players like Joe Montana who, while not possessing the prototypical cannon arm, had an almost clairvoyant understanding of timing and touch. This was the dawn of something new, something dangerously elegant, a machine beginning to hum with an unnerving, perfect rhythm. The foundation was laid not with concrete, but with pure, unadulterated thought, a meticulous design that would soon prove shockingly effective. The maestro and his quantum leap. Walsh's genius wasn't just in conceptualizing the system, but in finding its perfect conductor. Joseph Clifford Montana, a third-round pick, possessed an almost supernatural calm, an unflappability that belied the chaos around him. He wasn't a scrambler in the traditional sense, but a master of the pocket, able to subtly shift, extend plays, and deliver the ball with uncanny accuracy. Walsh taught him to read defenses not just pre-snap, but during the snap, processing information at lightning speed, making decisions in fractions of a second. This symbiotic relationship between coach and quarterback became the engine of the Golden Age. Montana's mastery of the system was so complete, his mental game so advanced, that he developed subtle pre-snap routines that became part of the 49ers' psychological warfare. He would often subtly check his wristband multiple times, even when he already knew the play, deliberately giving the illusion of indecision to subtly buy more crucial seconds for receivers to adjust or for the defense to overthink. This wasn't just about throwing a football, it was about manipulating time, space, and the minds of his opponents. Walsh armed Montana with an arsenal of quick-hitting routes, designed to create space instantly, to exploit the smallest defensive vulnerability. The plays were short, but the gains were consistent, relentless. This was football as a death by 1,000 cuts, not a single, decisive blow. Every practice was a meticulous dissection of defensive formations, every route run with precision, every timing drill perfected to the millisecond. The bond between Walsh and Montana transcended typical player-coach dynamics. It was closer to that of a scientific innovator and his most precise instrument, each pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible within the gridiron. They were not just playing the game, they were actively redefining its operating parameters, making other strategies seem crude and outdated by comparison. The precision was surgical, the execution flawless, the psychological advantage absolute. The unfurling of a new era. The West Coast offense, or the passing game, was a marvel of offensive design. It prioritized rhythm, flow, and above all, the horizontal stretch of the field. Receivers ran precise short and intermediate routes, slants, hitches, curls, designed to create immediate separation and allow for quick, safe throws. The genius lay in the illusion of complexity and the reality of simplicity. While plays looked intricate, they were built on fundamental reads and progressions, allowing Montana to get the ball out quickly, mitigating the pass rush. The yardage after the catch, YC, became a cornerstone, turning 5-yard throws into 10-yard gains. Opposing defenses, accustomed to attacking the deep ball or stopping the run, found themselves constantly a step behind, struggling to adapt to this relentless, short-area assault. The 49ers didn't break down defenses with power, they dissolved them with 1,000 tiny, accurate cuts. The first Super Bowl victory in 1981, culminating in the catch from Montana to Dwight Clark, wasn't just a win. It was the ultimate validation of Walsh's philosophy, a dramatic crescendo that announced the arrival of a new, dominant paradigm. The league watched, mesmerized and bewildered, as this elegant, almost alien form of football took root. They tried to replicate it, to understand its elusive magic, but without the genius of Walsh's mind and the unparalleled execution of Montana, it remained largely inimitable, a unique and potent brew. The 49ers transformed from a laughingstock into an impenetrable fortress of offensive innovation, setting the stage for a decade of unparalleled supremacy. This wasn't just a team, it was a phenomenon, a living laboratory proving that intellect could utterly dominate brute force. The Golden Empire expands. The 49ers' dominance wasn't a flash in the pan, it was a carefully cultivated, meticulously maintained empire. Walsh, ever the innovator, continually refined his system, finding new ways to exploit the very defenses trying to decode him. The arrival of Jerry Rice in 1985 cemented their offensive supremacy. Rice wasn't just a receiver, he was the ultimate weapon for Walsh's system, a player with an unmatchable work ethic, an uncanny ability to run precise routes, and a preternatural gift for YC. He turned quick slants into touchdowns, transforming the seemingly mundane into the spectacular, a living, breathing extension of the machine's perfect gears. But this wasn't just an offensive juggernaut. The 49ers built a defense as equally intelligent and ferocious, led by luminaries like Ronnie Lott, one of the most intimidating safeties to ever play the game. They were the perfect complement, a suffocating force that ensured the opposition rarely had a chance to counter Walsh's offensive onslaught. The 49ers didn't just score, they controlled the tempo, the clock, and the mental state of every team they faced. They won with Montana, then they won with Steve Young, proving that the system itself, the core philosophy, transcended individual brilliance, a testament to the fundamental soundness of Walsh's original blueprint. This was not a team that relied on a few stars. It was a perfectly orchestrated symphony of talent, each instrument playing its part with flawless timing and execution. The precision of the offense, combined with the suffocating defense, created a nearly impenetrable shield, making Super Bowl appearances a yearly expectation rather than a lofty dream. The unstoppable system. The 1980s belonged to the San Francisco 49ers. 5 Super Bowl victories across a decade, a feat unheard of and rarely matched since, solidified their status as the decade's preeminent dynasty. Their offensive records became legendary, a testament to their relentless pursuit of perfection. They set new benchmarks for passing yards, completion percentages, and quarterback efficiency, often rewriting the record books with each passing season. The very fabric of football strategy began to unravel under their dominance. Every coach in the league studied their film, tried to decipher the code, and desperately attempted to replicate their success, often to no avail. Walsh's tactical genius extended beyond the plays themselves. He was a master of psychological warfare. He meticulously scripted the first 15 to 25 offensive plays of every game, often leading to early leads that psychologically crushed opponents, making them feel like they were already playing from behind against an infallible force. This was not just about winning, it was about creating an insurmountable aura, a feeling of inevitability that permeated every stadium they played in. The 49ers didn't merely beat their opponents, they systematically dismantled them, stripping away their hope, one perfectly executed play at a time. The game, for a glorious, terrifying decade, became their personal laboratory, a canvas for their unparalleled precision and innovation. They didn't just win, they altered the very DNA of offensive football, influencing strategies that still resonate today. The golden standard was set, not just for success, but for how success could be systematically engineered, leaving an indelible, almost frightening mark on the sport. The unveiling of the gilded cage. And this, dear viewer, is where the golden gleam begins to fade, where the admiration for absolute perfection curdles into something else entirely. The elegant mix of innovation and precision, the genius coaching, the legendary players, all contributed to a machine of such flawless efficiency, such surgical dominance, that it began to transcend the very concept of football. It wasn't just about winning, it was about the systematic sterilization of the competitive struggle. The 49ers didn't just defeat opponents, they rendered them obsolete, making their efforts seem pitiful, uninspired, almost childish in comparison. They sucked the chaos, the raw, unpredictable humanity out of the game. Imagine a species so perfectly evolved, so perfectly adapted to its environment, that it devours every other living thing, leaving behind nothing but its own solitary, perfect form. That was the 49ers' golden era. They consumed the hopes, the strategies, the very competitive spirit of their adversaries, leaving behind a sterile, almost academic exercise. Their perfection became a gilded cage for the sport itself, trapping it in an era of predictable excellence. This isn't the disgust of scandal, or violence, or even explicit corruption. No, this is the profound, unsettling revulsion that arises from watching something beautiful become so unnervingly perfect, so utterly devoid of messy struggle, that it transforms from a vibrant contest into a cold, clinical dissection. It's the visceral discomfort of seeing the organic, the wild, the unpredictable, systematically reduced to a perfectly calibrated, emotionless mechanism. The golden standard wasn't pure gold, it was an alloy forged in the fires of such relentless, calculated efficiency that it stripped the very soul from the game, leaving behind a chilling, hollow victory. It wasn't just football, it was a perfectly preserved specimen, beautiful in its execution, but utterly lifeless in its ultimate implication. Sometimes, the most profound victories leave behind the emptiest fields.